The moment I sat beside her, I felt the room shift, like gravity had forgotten its rules. She was quiet, but her presence filled the entire chamber. I was supposed to be her husband, only in name, but every nerve in my body screamed that this arrangement was a lie, a fragile fiction. Yet the moment I rose to leave, her hand shot out. "Don't go," she whispered, and I froze, staring at the impossible curves of her wrist, the alien elegance that seemed to hum with light. But that was only the beginning. I had come to the Andarian space station under orders I barely understood. Earth's ambassadors had insisted that I impersonate a royal consort, a human tether to the alien political machine. I had trained for this deception, memorized every word, every gesture. But nothing could have prepared me for her. The princess, Lumina, was not just regal. She was a storm wrapped in silk. Her eyes, golden with flecks of violet, seemed to read every fear I had ever hidden. What I saw next changed everything. The room around us pulsed with soft, cyan light, walls stretching impossibly high, metallic yet alive. The air smelled faintly of ozone and lavender, a paradox that made my chest tighten. I lowered myself back into the chair beside her, pretending composure. "I won't stay long," I muttered. The words tasted like ash. She tilted her head, a subtle curve of her lips that felt like a challenge. "You will," she said. "And I think you know why." The first hour passed in silence, but it was not peaceful. Every glance she cast, every subtle shift in her posture, felt loaded with meaning I could barely grasp. Her hands, delicate and unnaturally long, hovered over the table's surface. I realized I was studying her hands, as if the answer to this impossible mission could be found in the alien geometry of her fingers. But that was only the beginning. Then the chamber doors opened, letting in a flood of white light and a stranger who introduced himself as her advisor. He was a shadow compared to Lumina, but I caught the quick dart of his eyes when he looked at me, the human pawn, and my pulse skipped. "He doesn't belong here," he muttered under his breath, but loud enough for me to hear. My first real clue. Not all Andarians were content with this human experiment. What I saw next changed everything. The evening stretched thin, the conversations polite but strained. I learned more about their world in fragments. Citizens who communicated through colors of light, a planet so vast it could hold cities in its oceans, and secrets buried beneath crystalline mountains. And all the while, I felt the weight of Lumina's gaze. She was watching me, but not as one watches an ally or a friend. She was measuring me, testing the limits of my honesty, my courage, maybe even my heart. But that was only the beginning. Around the mid-hour mark, the station shuddered. The lights flickered, and a deep, resonant hum filled the chamber. Lumina's hand tightened on mine. "They found us," she said, voice low, urgent. "Not the human authorities. Not even a rogue faction I could comprehend. Something older, something patient. Something that considered humans and Andarians alike as pieces on a board we didn't even know existed." What I saw next changed everything. We were swept into the station's corridors, moving fast, shadows flickering across walls that seemed alive. Lumina's stride was swift but controlled, every motion precise. I followed, heart hammering, mind racing. I wanted to ask questions, about the station, about the enemy, but I barely trusted my own voice. A thought pierced through my fear. I wasn't pretending anymore. Somewhere in this chaos, I had already crossed a line into something irreversibly real. But that was only the beginning. The source of the disturbance revealed itself in a chamber deep beneath the station's surface. A creature, neither fully Andarian nor fully machine, hovered in the air, eyes like black mirrors. It spoke without words, sending thoughts directly into our minds. Why is the human here? It demanded. The question wasn't just a query. It was a verdict. My throat went dry. Lumina's fingers brushed mine again, grounding me, reminding me I was not alone. What I saw next changed everything. We were trapped, yet free in a paradox of alien technology. The creature's form shimmered, breaking apart into fragments of energy, swirling around us. Lumina stepped forward, her voice resonating with authority I could barely recognize. "He is not just human," she declared. "He is part of the bridge." I didn't understand the full meaning, but the urgency in her tone carved through my confusion. That was only the beginning. Hours, or what felt like hours, passed in tense negotiation. Every step I took, every word I uttered, seemed to carry consequences I could not predict. I was no longer an observer. I was a participant in something cosmic, a human heart caught in the gears of alien fate. Lumina's presence beside me was electric, a tether to something more than duty. And then the whisper I would never forget. "I chose you," she said, almost reverently. My stomach twisted, disbelief battling a surge of emotion. What I saw next changed everything. We emerged into a chamber that defied gravity, a massive dome where stars seemed close enough to touch. Lumina turned to me fully for the first time, vulnerability flickering in her luminous eyes. "I know you're afraid," she admitted. "I am too. But together, we can survive what comes next." I wanted to argue, to remind her this was all a pretense, but the sincerity in her tone made me doubt every lesson I'd learned about deception. That was only the beginning. The mid-story turning point struck when the advisor we had thought loyal revealed his true allegiance. "The human is a threat," he hissed, venom in his words. "You've all been deceived." I froze. Every step, every strategy we'd planned suddenly seemed fragile, meaningless. Lumina's gaze met mine, sharp, steady. "Then we adapt," she said. And just like that, I realized I wasn't a fake husband anymore. I was a participant in a rebellion that spanned stars. What I saw next changed everything. We fought, not with weapons, but with minds, bending alien tech, outsmarting shadows that had lived centuries beyond comprehension. I saw Lumina in ways no one should see a royal. Desperate, brilliant, fiercely protective. Her hands, once symbols of delicate regality, were now instruments of survival. I followed her instinctively, the line between duty and desire blurring. But that was only the beginning. Finally, in the heart of the station, we confronted the truth. The enemy was a sentinel, a guardian left by ancestors of her species to test the worth of any who would claim power. And we, an unlikely human and an alien princess, had passed its trial not with force, but with trust, courage, and connection. I realized then that my role as a fake husband had become something deeper, something irrevocable. What I saw next changed everything. Lumina turned to me, hand in mine, eyes gleaming with unshed tears. "You don't have to leave," she said softly. The words shook me to my core. Everything had led to this moment. The deception, the danger, the impossible trials. And now, for the first time, I saw possibility, not pretense. I couldn't look away. My heart answered before my mind could protest. That was only the beginning. We emerged from the station together, stepping into a sky painted with alien suns. The horizon was unfamiliar, terrifying, and beautiful. Lumina's hand remained clasped in mine, a silent promise that neither of us fully understood yet but both felt to our core. And I knew as we faced that infinite expanse, that the bond we had forged in fear, in chaos, in truth, could never be undone. What I saw next changed everything. And when I finally asked her why she had chosen me, why she had risked everything to hold my hand and say, "Don't go," she smiled, faintly, with all the weight of her worlds behind her. "Because you saw me," she said. "Not the crown, not the duty, not the legend, but me." And in that instant, I realized I had been waiting my whole life for a moment like this, on a station among the stars, with an alien princess who had made a choice that would echo across galaxies. That was the beginning of everything. I turned to look at her one last time before stepping into the unknown, and she gripped my hand again, a simple, perfect act that shattered every rule I had ever known. "Don't go," she said once more, but this time it wasn't a plea. It was a challenge, a vow, and a promise intertwined. And I understood finally that I wasn't leaving. Not ever. The stars stretched endlessly above us, indifferent, magnificent, infinite. And for the first time, I felt truly human, truly alive, and impossibly tethered to something far greater than myself. Lumina's hand in mine was the bridge between worlds, between reason and wonder, between survival and love. And in that moment, I knew we were ready. Ready for whatever came next. And the universe waited, breathless, for us to take the next step.